Hello, I'm Food Daniel. Here are my predictions for the WFA games to be played on June 6th. This is coming after a very exciting week of games on May 30th. There are some very close games, including the marquee games. Hope that continues. Here we go. Cleveland Fusion at the DC Divas. Before last week I was thinking that would be a rather exciting game. But, I thought last week's DC at Atlanta game was going to be exciting. DC creamed them 54-0. I don't think Cleveland's going to lose that badly, but I do feel more confident that the Divas will have a solid win than I did before. I'm going to say the Divas by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Okay, Detroit Dark Angels at the Derby City Dynamite. Okay, the Dark Angels are coming off a 35-0 loss to the Cleveland Fusion, while the Derby City Dynamite are coming off of a surprisingly close loss to the West Michigan Mayhem 15-0. I thought that was going to be far more lopsided than it really was. Derby City defense getting it done. Will they get it done enough against the Dark Angels? I'll predict yes. Barely. I'll say Derby City by 2 touchdowns or less. I'd love to be wrong, though, because I say it every time. I love my Detroit Dark Angels, yes. Especially if they're still using my fight song that I wrote for them. I don't know if they are or not. Okay, Chicago Force, the Indy Crash. Well, right off the bat, before anything, Chicago Force and the Boston Renegades, well done on that very, very exciting game last week. 40-34, Boston wins in overtime. Wow. That's the kind of game that every semi-pro league dreams of. In a league where blowouts are this common. It's so refreshing to see, 2 of the best teams in the league, have an apocalyptic slugfest like that. Love it. Well done to both teams. Okay, the Force, they'll get over that loss and they're going to beat Indy Crash in a gruesome win. Gruesome. Columbus Comets, the West Michigan Mayhem. Well, last week's Comets game that probably would have been their first win of the year at the Central Maryland Seahawks got canceled, so they win by forfeit. Now here's a chance for them to win a game for real. At the West Michigan Mayhem. This will be a good challenge. This will be a good challenge. Columbus's schedule has had some overwhelming opponents, but this one, the Comets can win this one, but it won't be easy. I'll predict the Comets by 2 touchdowns or less. I sure hope so. I love my Comets. Yes. Okay, Daytona Wave Runners at the Atlanta Phoenix. Okay, Wave Runners coming off a 35-0 loss to Tampa Bay, and Atlanta coming off of a 54-0 loss to DC. Well, Atlanta is still, far and away above most of the Florida teams, including the Wave Runners. I'm going to say gruesome win by Atlanta. Okay, in Florida, the Miami Fury at the Jacksonville Dixie Blues. The Dixie Blues are good and powerful, but Miami, they're the best team in the state. I expect Miami to win this game, and I'll say it'll be by 2 or 3 touchdowns. In Texas, the Dallas Elite at the South Texas Lady Crushers. No. Gruesome. Unholy gruesome. No. Dallas. Dallas will win this game. Gruesomely. This is a Texas equivalent of, the Ventura Wolfpack at the San Diego Surge. I mean, just... No. Gruesome. Okay, Houston Power at the Acadiana Zydeco. The Power, coming off of an admirably close 14-6 loss to the Arlington Impact. I thought that was going to be a blowout for the Impact, but Houston kept it real exciting. At the Acadiana Zydeco, coming off of a 40-0 win over the Wildcats. I predicted that would be a close game. Shows how much I know. And Acadiana also got Keisha Lewis back. Keisha Lewis is one of my favorite sack monsters in the league. That'll add some extra brutalness to their game. Yes. Enough to overcome Houston? I don't think so. I'll predict Houston will win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I'd love to be wrong, though, because I love my Zydeco. Okay, Tulsa threat at the Arkansas Wildcats. Okay, as I said last week, between Acadiana, Tulsa, and Arkansas, when those 3 teams play, they usually have close games. Acadiana embarrassed me by proving me wrong last week. But I don't think I'll be wrong this time. This will be a close game, Tulsa at Arkansas, and I think Tulsa's going to win this one. I'll say by 2 touchdowns or less. Tulsa will beat Arkansas on the road. To the northwest, to Washington State, my favorite state in the U.S. The Everett Rain at the Seattle Majestics. Hey, the Majestics reign supreme in the northwest. No one's going to beat them. They'll win this game by 3 to 4 touchdowns. I do like Everett, though. They're nice ladies. Every time I've met them, they're always friendly to me. Their fans are friendly to me, too. So I like Everett, but they ain't getting past Seattle. Okay, in Portland, it's, the Rose City Bowl Part 2. Portland Shockwave at the Portland Fighting Phillies. Well, the Phillies are feeling good. They got their first win of the year last week against the Blitz, 49-22. Portland Shockwave got beat by the Majestics, 32-0. But still, the Shockwave are the superior team. They'll win this game by 3 to 4 touchdowns. Tacoma Trauma at the Utah Blitz. I say it every week. I don't know what is keeping the Blitz motivation as sky high as it is when everything's gone wrong for them, but I'm glad they're hanging in there. They scored 22 points last week. That's very cool. And congratulations, Suthi Horine. She's been playing for 6 seasons, not much as a ball carrier, but yesterday as a ball carrier scored her first ever touchdown. Hey! Wish I could have seen that. Tacoma Trauma, they beat the Rain last week, 35-0. They already murdered the Blitz in week 2 by a score of, what was that score? It wasn't week 2, it was week 3. They beat the Blitz 62-0. Now, the Blitz only had 13 players in that game because it was a road game. This is a home game for the Blitz, but even so, their roster is only like 17 or 18 players. So, assuming Tacoma has a reasonably good-sized roster, Tacoma will win this one by, I'm going to say, 4 or 5 touchdowns. Now, of course, if they don't have a reasonable-sized roster, it might be similar to the Blitz game I attended against the Rain, where the Blitz had 18 players, the Rain had 15 players, and it was 8-0 Everett. I wouldn't mind that. But no, predict Tacoma will win this one easily. Okay, Central Cal War Angels versus the Sin City Sun Devils in Las Vegas. Well, they played each other once, home game for Central Cal. I was at that game in 90-degree heat. Central Cal won. I think it was 46-6. And I expect something similar here. Central Cal is very, very powerful, despite that close loss last week, which I'll mention in a minute. As for Sin City, this is a rebuild mode because, they're under new ownership and, they've lost to the big names and they've won against, the lesser teams. Central Cal is a big name, so Central Cal win this one probably by 4 or 5 touchdowns. I hope it's close, though, because I love those Sun Devils, ladies. Yes. Okay, San Diego Surge at the Pacific Warriors. Okay. Yes, let me mention last week's game. The Central Cal War Angels and the Pacific Warriors had what I said was the West Coast equivalent of the Boston-Chicago game, and it lived up to it. Pacific Warriors beat the Central Cal War Angels 38-34 in a game that went down to, I think, the last minute of the game. Very well done to both teams. Again, when you get 2 marquee names, fans want to see good close games, and you gave it to us. High-scoring close games, too. Love it. Great stuff. But the Pacific Warriors going up against the Surge for the second time this year. The first time they played, the Surge won 73-31. Now, nobody had ever scored that many points against the Surge before, 31 points. But, come on, when you're giving up 73 points, you're not going to win. San Diego will win this game, and I'm going to say it'll be by 4 or 5 touchdowns. Yeah. I do like seeing the Pacific Warriors doing so well, though, after taking all of last year off. Because whenever a team takes a year off, you got to wonder if they're going to come back at all. Not only do they come back, they're better than ever. Great stuff. Okay, Arizona Assassins at the Ventura Wolfpack. Well, the Wolfpack, they forfeited last week against the San Diego Surge. I don't know if it was because they couldn't play or if it was a safety measure, and I don't blame them if the latter. Against the Arizona Assassins, though, and a home game for Ventura, no less, I hope that game gets played. I think it'll be close, but I think Arizona will win it. Not too close. Let's say 2 or 3 touchdowns, Arizona. And by the way, last week Arizona lost to the West Coast Lightning by an eye-popping score of 64-46. Wow. I guess the two teams decided beforehand that defense was overrated. That must have been a lot of fun for the fans. That must have been a lot of fun to see. And it's cool to see, the novelty of teams like Arizona and the West Coast Lightning putting up that many points in a game. Good stuff. Okay, Austin Outlaws at the Arlington Impact. Another Texas battle. Okay, Austin defeated the South Texas Lady Crushers last week 57-0, while the Arlington Impact squeaked by the Houston Power 14-6. Surprisingly close game. This game, though, I do not think will be surprisingly close or unsurprisingly close. I think Arlington will win this one handily. I'll say by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Yeah, the Austin Outlaws have had a tough time of it ever since, the teams, some of the players from the Outlaws split and became the Austin Yellow Jackets. Every time that happens, it tears teams apart. It does. But hang in there, Outlaws. And I love those ruby-colored helmets of yours. Best in the league. Okay, it's the Missouri battle. The Kansas City Titans at the St. Louis Slam. Everybody loves this game. Yes. Hard to say what's going to happen here. Did they play each other once before? Let me just take a look real quick. Week 1, no. Week 2, no. Week 3, no. Yes, in week 4, they played in Kansas City. Kansas City won 27-17. That's great stuff. When the two teams in the state battle against each other, you want it to be close. You want that to be close. And it was, and I think it will be again. I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to predict St. Louis is going to win that game, and I'll predict it'll be 2 touchdowns or less. Yes, I think St. Louis will win that game. I really don't have a dog in that fight because I'm friends with players on both Kansas City and St. Louis. Again, when I've met players from those teams, they're always nice to me. So I like those ladies. Okay, and finally in Florida, a game that may or may not happen. The Orlando Anarchy at the Tampa Bay Inferno. The Anarchy, they forfeited last week against the Miami Fury. And that was a home game for Orlando. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do a road game to Tampa Bay. But if they do, Tampa Bay will win. And it'll be a gruesome win. But I like the Anarchy. I mean, what can you say about a team that'll actually take, the universal symbol of the entire punk rock movement and put it on their helmets? That's the coolest thing on earth. So whatever's going wrong in Orlando, I hope it proves to be temporary. But if that game gets played, gruesome win for Tampa Bay. And that completes my predictions for the WFA games to be played on June 6th. Thank you.